Ever imagine yourself, like, shaping young minds?
Mm.
But not just any young minds, those facing, unique
Yeah,
challenges.
yeah.
That's the heart of being a special educational needs teacher,
Right.
specifically at the secondary level, working with those teenagers.
Right.
And let me tell you, the journey is, well, it's definitely not a boring desk job.
No, not at all.
Today, we're going deep, really deep into this career path. And luckily, we've got RoleCatcher, kind of like our insider guide, right?
Absolutely. It's like having that cheat sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's one thing to, read the textbook definition of what this job is.
Right.
But RoleCatcher gives us a glimpse into like the actual day-to-day, the good, the bad, the things that you don't really see until you're in it.
And that's invaluable.
Hugely, especially if you're serious about this path.
Oh, absolutely. Because we're not just talking about, teaching a subject.
Right.
We're talking about teenagers. And anyone who's been a teenager, has a teenager, knows teenagers.
Oh, they're a whole other ballgame.
They come with their own complexities.
Yeah.
And then you layer on top of that the fact that these students, they learn differently. They need like a tailored approach.
Yeah. It's about, like you said, it's not just teaching a subject, it's teaching a student. And RoleCatcher, I like how they put it, they call it specially designed instruction.
Oh, I like that.
Which I think really gets to the heart of it. Because can you imagine, one period you're working with a student who has dyslexia.
Right.
And then the next period, you've got to totally shift gears. You're supporting someone on the autism spectrum.
It's like being an educational chameleon or something.
Exactly.
Constantly adapting, changing your colors, changing your methods. That level of, that's got to be rewarding. But I can only imagine it comes with some serious challenges too.
Oh, for sure. It's a lot. And RoleCatcher, to their credit, they don't sugarcoat it.
They don't.
They talk about the good and the potential downsides.
Yeah, the burnout. They mentioned burnout. And that's something I wanted to ask you about, having been, in the thick of it. What are your thoughts on that?
It's real. It's definitely something to consider. And honestly, it's something I've faced myself at times because you're so invested in these kids, these students' lives. You celebrate their wins, you share in their frustrations. It's incredibly rewarding, but it can be draining if you're not careful. You have to have those healthy boundaries, that support system in place.
It's that emotional resilience, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's not just about having the know-how. It's about having the heart for it.
It's both. You got to have both.
But I also imagine those high job satisfaction moments, which RoleCatcher did point out, I bet those make it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that have brought you, the most satisfaction in this role?
Oh, there's nothing like it, honestly. When you've been working with them and they finally have that aha moment, that breakthrough. I'm thinking of one student, Sarah. She struggled so much with reading. We must have spent months, trying different strategies, different technologies. And then one day she looks up at me, this huge smile, and she goes, I get it. I can read this.
Wow.
Those moments, that's what it's all about.
Those are the moments that fuel you, right?
Absolutely.
That just shows you the impact, the real profound impact that special educational needs teachers, they have on these students' lives.
Yeah.
It's not just academics. It's about giving them the skills, the confidence to succeed in the classroom and beyond.
It's about that belief in themselves.
Yeah.
That they can do it. That's huge. It really is. It's about that feeling, that they can do anything, building that self-esteem up,
Yeah.
social skills, and that often we can't do it alone.
Right. It really does take a whole team effort, doesn't it?
It does. And RoleCatcher, they emphasize that a lot. The collaboration aspect, it's huge.
Collaboration. So it's okay, you've got the educators, the parents, counselors, even the administrators sometimes.
Sometimes. It depends on the situation.
Right, of course, of course. But what does that actually look like day to day, the collaboration part?
Communication is key. That's the big thing. Think about those individualized education plans.
The IEP.
The IEPs, yeah. You're meeting with parents. You're discussing how their kid's doing. Are they progressing? What strategies are working? What's not working? Making sure everyone's on the same page.
Oh, totally. And you've got to explain things in a way that,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because not everyone's an expert in special ed jargon.
Exactly. You're also consulting with, you might be talking to a speech therapist to, get their take on things if a student's having communication issues, for example. So it sounds like a lot of back and forth.
It is. Constant exchange of information, different perspectives, because you're piecing together. It's like you're a detective almost.
Oh, I like that. Educational detective.
Right, you're gathering all these clues from the student themselves, from their parents, from other specialists,
Observing your students, you're looking at their work, trying to
trying
analyze.
to figure out what's working, what's not. And that takes, oh man, that takes some serious active listening skills.
Active listening, and not just with the student, but with everybody involved.
Everybody. You got to be so
And then you
bright.
got to be able to communicate all that you're gathering, all those insights, clearly in a way that,
To people understand. Because you can't just, throw a bunch of jargon at a parent and expect them to get it.
right, and that's got to be, I mean, technology must play a big role in all of this.
Yeah.
Because RoleCatcher mentioned that, how tech is really like changing the game in this field.
Oh, it's huge. Technology, I mean, where do I even begin? We've got software now that creates those learning plans, specifically tailored
Wow.
to that individual student's needs. And then there are apps, so many apps. Some of them help students who are nonverbal communicate, like they use pictures or symbols.
That's incredible.
It is. And we've even got virtual reality stuff now. For students who don't do well in a traditional classroom setting, VR can create these like immersive learning experiences.
It's mind-blowing, some of the things they're coming up with.
It really is. It's like a whole new world of possibilities.
Like I'm picturing, a student who has dyslexia, they're using text-to-speech software and they're able to access information independently.
Mhm.
Or a student with ADHD, they've got noise-canceling headphones. They can actually, like, focus in a way that they couldn't before.
It's about, for me at least, it's about bridging that gap between a student's abilities and what they can actually achieve.
Leveling that playing field.
Exactly. Giving them the tools, because everyone deserves a chance to succeed, no matter what challenges they're facing. What about you? What kind of tech do you see yourself? Like, if you were in this role, what would you be most drawn to?
I find the assistive technology part fascinating,
Yeah.
especially for students who have those communication challenges.
Hmm.
I was reading about this device, and it allows people with limited mobility to control a computer, but just with their eye movement.
Wow, just with their eyes.
Just their eyes. And it made me think, like, the ability to give someone that level of independence, that access, that's powerful stuff. But I think beyond any one tool, it's that willingness to adapt, to be open to new technologies as they come out.
Just because things are
Yeah.
changing so fast.
Oh, constantly. You got to be ready to learn and adapt. Being tech savvy in this field, it's not even optional anymore. It's essential.
Yeah.
But, even with all the amazing technology we have, and we're going to have even more, we can't forget the human element.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's about connecting with those students on a human level.
Yeah.
It's the empathy, the ability to understand their needs. And I think that becomes even more important, that human element, as you move up in your career, if you take on those leadership roles. Absolutely. You're not just working with students at that point. You're advocating for change, maybe even at the policy level.
Speaking of career progression, RoleCatcher, they outline different stages of, a special educational needs teacher's career path. And what I found interesting wasn't so much the titles, but how the work itself changes.
Oh, yeah. It definitely evolves.
Like someone who's just starting out, they're probably focused on, getting those teaching strategies down, modifying the curriculum, making sure those IEPs are implemented.
Basics.
Yeah, the fundamentals. But then as they get more experience, they might be leading those IEP meetings. They might be developing those behavioral intervention plans or even mentoring other teachers.
Right. You start taking on more responsibility. It's not just about you and your students anymore.
And then you hit those more senior roles, and you might be like leading a team of educators.
Right.
Or you're the one advocating for those policy changes. You might even be doing professional development for your colleagues.
Yeah, your reach gets much wider. You're shaping the approach to special education as a whole.
That must be incredibly rewarding to see your impact on that scale.
It is, but it's not without its challenges, that's for sure. I mean, early on in my career, I remember I was tasked with leading an IEP meeting.
Okay, yeah, those can be intense.
They can be, and this particular student, they had really complex needs. But the administrator who was supposed to lead the meeting, something came up, they were unavailable, and I was the only one who could step in. And I was like brand new to the job.
Oh, wow. Trial by fire.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember feeling this wave of panic because I was still figuring things out myself. And here I was responsible for this meeting with parents, specialists, administrators, all these different perspectives. And the information was sensitive. It was a lot.
Oh, wow. Talk about being thrown in the deep end. What did you even do? How did you handle that?
Honestly, I prepped like crazy, read that student's file front to back, their history, their strengths, what they were struggling with, and then during the meeting itself, deep breaths. And I leaned on the other professionals there, big time.
I bet. That's what they're there for.
Exactly. I was new, but they weren't. I learned a huge lesson that day. Even when you think you're an over-your-head collaboration, it can be a lifesaver.
Right.
Literally.
It's amazing how those moments, they really show us what we're capable of, right? Our own resilience.
Yeah.
It sounds like teamwork is, like, essential in this field.
Absolutely essential. You could have all the knowledge in the world, the skills, but if you don't have that support system, that willingness to work together, you won't be as effective, that's for sure. And, that whole teamwork thing, it's important even when you're job hunting. Which, speaking of, we were going to touch on RoleCatcher's AI tool, the resume one.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of wild when you think about it. Your resume, it might be a computer program that looks at it first before a human even sees it.
Yeah.
So how do you stand out when AI is like the gatekeeper?
Right. It's the future, kind of scary. But RoleCatcher had a good point. They said use the same language that's in the job description itself, like word for word, because those algorithms, those programs, they look for keywords.
So it's not enough to just have the experience. You have to describe it the right way.
Pretty much. Like if they want differentiated instruction, don't say tailored learning, even though it means the same thing.
Wow. So you really do have to speak the algorithm's language.
You do. But it's not about being fake, it's about being smart. Get your skills across, but in a way that both a computer and a person will get.
It's a whole new world out there, that's for sure. But at the heart of it, I got to believe it's still about that human connection, right? No computer program can replace the passion, the empathy, all those things that make a great special ed teacher. So for anyone listening who's thinking about this path, if you could only say one thing in an interview, something truly uniquely YU, what would it be? What makes you perfect for this? Let that shine through and you'll be amazing. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of special educational needs teachers. Until next time, keep those questions coming and we'll keep diving deep.